Hello, Dominion League action here, match 4 for me. My first thoughts looking at the board was that there's a lot of help for Courtyard Big Money here. Masterpiece, Treasure Trove, and Horde all provide excellent support for Courtyard Big Money. However, you have to consider Young Witch in your analysis. Can the Young Witch disrupt a pure Courtyard Big Money strategy, even though Courtyard is the bane? I'm not entirely sure, but playing an engine, you have a lot more control than playing money. So I'm thinking about switching over from this Courtyard Big Money plan into a draw engine with Bazaar and Courtyard. Forager will be there to trash and will also be your source of plus buy. And what I'm hoping to do with this engine is to play a Treasure Trove, at least one Treasure Trove, every turn. The reason for the Treasure Trove and not the Horde is that the Treasure Trove will get me the gold anyway, and it will also get me a copper which the Forager can trash. And Forager can be worth quite a bit on this board, maximum of 7 coin. So that is a lot. So this is what I hope to do long term. For the short term, I buy a Forager as my opponent opens Moneylender. Now I notice here my opponent didn't open Young Witch or Courtyard, and for that reason I opt for the Young Witch here. If I can sneak in 1 or 2 curses, hopefully it'll cause enough problems to be worth it. My opponent picks up a Courtyard here, presumably to serve as a bane, and also they're perhaps signaling their intention to go for the draw engine here. And even if the Young Witch is blocked a lot in the later half of the game, which it probably will be, I don't mind it in my deck. It's still a decent card. It's a filter and it's useful. Draw 2, discard 2, not bad at all. On 4 and 2 buys here, I consider double Courtyard because I want to get the draw engine going, but I opt for a second Forager instead because I don't have any Bazaars yet, and it's a little bit scary to have 3 terminals in a deck with no village. On 5 and 2 buys, my opponent gets a Forager and a Courtyard as I pick up a silver here. So here my opponent gets to double trash with Forager and with Moneylender and buys a Quarry at this point. I also agree with my opponent and pick up a Quarry here with the 2 sources of plus buy in my deck now. In addition to the fact that it is a little bit thinner, I feel like I will be able to properly use this Quarry now. This is not a great hand for me. I was hoping to get to 5 on this shuffle to see a Bazaar to start building this draw engine so I can start adding Courtyards to my deck. Here my opponent buys a Young Witch, and it shows me that they've been paying attention to what I've been doing because I don't have any Courtyards yet. So my opponent buying a Young Witch is decent and will probably land because my deck has no Courtyard in it, and I'm pausing at this point, seriously considering whether or not to buy a Courtyard. Think about Moneylender for a while because I see my opponent's Moneylender doing work, but get the Courtyard, even though it's a little bit scary given my deck structure at the moment. My opponent trashes a copper with Moneylender, picking up a silver in exchange. Play my Young Witch, the attack lands, that's the second time for the game. Unfortunately, I had to get rid of a Courtyard there, but fortunately the Quarry shows up with the plus buy and I get Bazaar and Courtyard off of it. So I'm very happy with that turn. That is excellent. My opponent has a similar turn here, and with 3 with the Quarry you can get Bazaar and Courtyard, and that is brilliant, to be honest. 5 here is an easy Bazaar. My opponent gets another double trash here with Forager and Moneylender, picking up a Bazaar here. So here I have 5. I thought about trashing the silver, but it wasn't really time to do that yet. Just keep thinning your coppers and picking up a Bazaar, no big deal. So because my opponent has that Moneylender, they are able to trash quite a bit more quickly than I am, and you'll see how that will come into play in the middle of the game here. I'm able to defend against this young witch, so that is good. My opponent trashes with Forager and plays a Courtyard here, coming up with 6 and 2 buys. The quarry is there, so it seems like a natural double bazaar for my opponent, which they do end up going for. So here I know that I'm at least guaranteed bazaar and Courtyard. This Courtyard turns up bazaar estate and Courtyard, which really isn't great. I opt to stick the Courtyard back though, because I know I have a bazaar in the remaining 4 cards of my deck there, so I'm guaranteed to have a bit of a long turn next turn. And I get a bazaar and Courtyard here, building up that draw engine quite nicely. So here my position is okay, but my opponent is a little bit ahead on the thinning, and that means right now they're a little bit ahead on adding payload to their deck. They get a Courtyard out here, Forager followed by a Moneylender 10 and 2 buys, and they pick up what I thought would have been double bazaar, was actually Treasure Trove and bazaar. That's completely fine for my opponent. They're doing excellent with the trashing, so the Treasure Trove is timely. Here I get to play one of my Courtyards, this bazaar, and now a young witch, hoping to find another Courtyard to keep this turn alive, because I really need to have a decent turn here so that I can keep par with my opponent. However, no such luck with finding the Courtyards. My opponent is able to block the young witch here, which they will be able to do reasonably often at this point. That is fully anticipated now. And on 7, I also have to buy action cards the hard way, picking up the last bazaar and another Courtyard. Seeing this hand, I groaned a little bit because it really isn't great at all. No bazaars here with these 2 Courtyards, so I'll have to have just a short turn. Whereas on the other side, see my opponent playing both their Courtyards, drawing the entire deck. I'm able to at least defend from this young witch, so that is one good thing. And my opponent, after playing the Forager, I believe, and the Moneylender, comes up with 13 and 2 buys, with the quarry in play, of course. So my opponent now has the gold and the copper from the Treasure Trove here, and picks up a province and another Treasure Trove. Completely reasonable to pick up that second Treasure Trove. They have 2 copper trashers, so gaining the 2 coppers from Treasure Trove can be dealt with. I play this Courtyard, bazaar Forager. Forager comes up, not the best thing ever, so I just stick the Forager back and hope it finds a bazaar somewhere in there and I can have a good turn next turn. This 3, I don't want another Forager, nor do I want another Courtyard. I'm not sure I can even support another Courtyard with the amount of bazaars that I have, so I just opt for a silver here. A bit sad. Here my opponent plays a lot of bazaars but no Courtyard, so it makes me think they may have a stall turn next turn. This turn they come up with 14 and 2 buys, going for province and picking up another young witch. Young witch will help them filter, and also may land a double curse, who knows. Here I am able to kick off, so that is good. I'm able to draw nearly my entire deck. Here I trash with the Forager. Forager, you see, is now worth gold. My opponent has actually powered up Forager quite a bit, so I'm able to take advantage of that here. Stick the bazaar back here, obviously, and surprisingly, I was actually genuinely surprised that I had 16 here. But it is what I need to stay in this game, and I pick up the double province here. And at this point too, I check that I have 4 Courtyards, which means that my opponent has only 2 Courtyards. They don't have as much draw as me, and I reason later on in the game that they can't double province because they don't have as much draw as me. Or it is not very likely anyway. They probably can, especially if they get the 2 Foragers and power them up even more, because now there's gold to add to the mix. So here my opponent picks up a province after playing a forager there. Here I'm able to find a courtyard, and this young witch turns up a courtyard, so I'm happy about that. Some decision as to what to discard here. I decide that the quarry would be fed to the forager at this point rather than the copper. Not entirely sure why. I think I should have discarded the quarry, but it doesn't really matter because I draw everything at this point. Now it's just to decide what to stick back on top of my deck. I think I decide to stick the quarry back, but I'm not entirely sure what it is I chose to stick back. I mean, I don't want to stick any of these cards back. Oh, I decide on the forager because I calculate that I would have enough money to buy province and duchy. Don't want to double province at that point because then my opponent can just province and duchy and win the game very easily. So I just wanted to go province duchy there so I can't stick the forager back. Save it for next turn. My opponent picks up a duchy here even though they had money to buy a province. So playing that duchy dancing game at this point, which is, you know, always nerve-wracking. But here I have a tremendous shuffle, seeing all the courtyards here, and now the young witch will do what it does best, draws two good cards and gets rid of two bad cards, and just check in to see if the foragers are still worth 3 or if they have somehow magically lost value. And I had 16 last time I drew my deck, so I'm just checking for a way to get 16 again because that'll close up the game on double province. Eventually it comes down to me trashing a duchy with the forager, and I intentionally held back the duchy so that because I knew that I may have to trash it, and I trash a copper or a quarry to get up to 16 and finish out the game here. So that is game 1. I felt behind, especially in the middle game, but then somehow it just all came together and I magically had 16 and 2 buys, and I'm not sure how. So thank you for watching and see you in the next game.